105.
Mm.
Still here.
Still recording. Still no couch.
Still no couch.
I was thinking maybe we should just try the other couch and bring it to this room and have one podcast with a green couch.
Yeah.
Which will be weird. That lighting won't work with a green couch.
What lighting? The background lighting?
Yeah, the background lighting, like the pink and the blue, won't work with them.
Mix it all up. It would be like all of our
like
viewers.
Orange and I don't know what. Orange and purple.
Orange and teal complement each other well.
Orange and purple would do too.
Keep the purple.
Mm?
Keep the purple.
Yeah, maybe. Let's change one of them to orange. And then I have the green couch in the middle. Just for like one episode, trying to figure out if we would like the couch.
I have to look up on the color wheel what are the tertiary colors with green.
I mean, green and orange do go well together.
I guess red, green, and blue. So probably red and blue, but I don't want red. Red will be weird.
I don't like that color combo.
Literally the primary colors.
It looks like mud. Okay, so the continuation. The last episode was kind of like a little offshoot, but continued from the attention traveling episode and kind of building onto that. So I'm once again rereading my Osho book. And so the thing that stood out to me in this particular passage, and it was actually a different part that stood out to me that I've been contemplating for a long time, and I think we should discuss, is that, and I don't have the exact reading of it, but basically he says that when man accumulates thought, when he has no thought, right?
When he accumulates thought or when he has no thought?
Well, it accumulates thoughts by not having thought.
Okay.
So he's almost referring to thought as energy, right? So when you do not exercise thought, therefore you accumulate thought. And then when you accumulate thought, then the thought that you do have becomes extremely potent.
Okay.
And then thus manifests itself into the reality in a more vivid and visceral way, maybe more noticeable way than the subtle little thoughts that we have and then they manifest themselves into real, right?
Yeah, like the monkey mind that just has all these ridiculous thoughts all day, every day.
Yeah. And so that's what I want to talk about is he says this from the larger standpoint of like what it is like to be separate and then in complete like state of awareness at all times, right? And what that means. And I think he talks about the responsibility that people have, going back to attention traveling, behind knowing how the universe works, knowing how you work, knowing how other people work, and then therefore using that with responsibility, right? And then he continues then to say is that if somebody accumulates thoughts and then chooses to use that thought for the light, that would be called the white magic. And, he's old and dead by now, but, and he wrote this back. I think he wrote this back when the Soviet Union was still together because he keeps on referring to Russia as a Soviet Union, as one. So I'm thinking this is a really, really old book. And he referred to Nixon too. So
as the current president?
Oh no, not as the current president, as he was responsible for the Vietnam War, right? So I'm saying these things are things to refer to. He was not a perfect being by any means, and so it's very interesting to see his ego come in and then very much be vivid and responsible for statements as he's writing this book about no ego. So I find that extremely entertaining.
I mean that's true of like
even us, us.
Yeah,
us,
sure,
yeah.
But like all the people that that like we've ever watched documentary, well, most of them at least. Some are more obvious than others. Guru Bhajan, the Kundalini guy, that on that documentary that showed up. I don't know about. We watched the one on Ram Dass, and that didn't. It wasn't as visible, at least as he got older.
Yeah, and so ego is actually just there to protect us.
Of course,
right? So any statement that you will make that would come across as not enlightened, like judgmental statements about Nixon and Soviet Union and he's very sexist. So like a lot of things he says are extremely sexist, and obviously, but maybe back then those are normal statements he would make, right? But it comes out of whatever trauma he has not addressed or not processed, and then therefore, the ego is just there as kind of like a defense mechanism,
right,
out of that. But yeah, but he very much makes these, off the cuff statements that are like, oh wow, that is super judgy, and too, like, excuse me, even inaccurate. Like he made a statement about Soviet Union not believing in the occult. Well, I grew up in Soviet Union, and no, occult was just very much part of everyday life.
Much more so than the United States.
Yes, yeah, and he says, like, so because they did not believe in the occult, the scientists studied it as a scientific interpretation, and therefore that's why Soviet Union is far ahead.
I think they did that as well.
No, I think they did that because they believed in the occult, right? There, in Soviet Union, most of the people that I have come across, like all of my family members, believed in this occult. We didn't call it a cult, but yeah, there was the babki, and they did their healings, and there was the ghost, and we knew which houses were haunted. As we drove by them, like, oh, yeah. And that was just a normal form of conversation. The priest in Ukraine, the Greek Orthodox Church, would perform exorcisms, right? And they would come in and bless the house. That was just a standard practice for a priest to come into a new house or a new apartment or whatever, and you would hire them to come and bless them. All Asian cultures do that as well. But that is technically a cult.
Yeah.
Right. So you believe that there's something in the house, an energy that could be unkosher or needs to be cleansed off. And here will come a priest that will bless it / clean off any negative juju.
Yeah.
But that's very much a cult. And in this case, it's even mixed into the Greek Orthodox religions that never left, even during communism. When we were there, communism was very much utilizing Greek Orthodox religion for control.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you watch that TV show, The Great, this would have been before communism. This would have been the Tsar doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The church and state were very much in cahoots.
Yeah. So like when people say Soviet Union was like
anti-religion,
no, I mean,
maybe like philosophically, but practically it was
never removed.
Useful.
Yeah, the churches were never anti-religious. Would means your churches are closed and you're not allowed to have freedom of religion. And I think that is the propaganda the United States and other countries wanted to run against Soviet Union.
I always heard that was the case.
But the churches were never not part of everyday life. There was always service. The churches were always open. The politicians always went off and buddied up with all the priests in order to be blessed.
That was my question. Was it open for people, but that was kind of like frowned upon?
No, I mean, I don't think so. At least now, I'm growing up in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if prior to that it was against. But no, in the 80s we have churches and they're opening and the priests are very much respected and then bribed for. Like that was a huge thing.
I've seen some of those Soviet posters that were anti-religion posters. There's the no drink poster.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen anti-religion posters as well.
Maybe.
But I don't know if there was like an ideological, peak earlier than the 80s, and then it was kind of like, well, maybe I don't know, maybe the church can be useful to us, or maybe this isn't the right thing to do, or this isn't in line with the people's needs or our needs, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I remember my grandma would talk about when somebody dies, you usually have a service and you ask a priest over, almost like a visitation here. But this would be like a priest would come to the house and bless or whatever. And sometimes if the cemetery is closed, the church proceedings that would carry the casket to the cemetery from the home, would have the priest accompany it.
Yeah. Isn't there just what's that church right there right next to the Kremlin?
Yeah, St. Basil's Cathedral.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Basil's Cathedral. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, but it has been converted to a museum, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
No, because I could be wrong. Or maybe it is still active. No, but the church bells that ding at noontime every day, that was just like, I grew up with that. Yeah. So anyway, slightly off topic, but yeah, he makes these statements. I think off the cuff, either not knowing or at least like not knowing himself, and then therefore just listening to propaganda, and very much sexist aim. So I'm not.
You would think an editor would catch that.
Well, but this was published. This was published back when sexism was okay. Do you know what I mean? So and then and I don't think an editor needs to drown out the voice of the author. Right? Like I think how it's written is how it needs to come through, and then people can judge for themselves what they take out of the book.
Maybe that's part of the lesson of the book is, look, here's this, spiritual guru, let's say, and it's like, oh, you can even see some of the cracks there.
Well, also the lesson of the book is, look, I am then interpreting as sexism and propaganda, and judgment. But just because he says it doesn't mean that I have to react to it. Mm. But I notice myself reacting to things, especially regarding like how he references women. Like he says like, oh, if you're a man and you're driving down and you see a beautiful woman on the side of your road and you want to take her, and that obviously it's forbidden by the society, and not like that is an appropriate thought against a woman who's a human being.
Society is always getting my way from taking women on the side of the road.
No, right? Like the thought that a man would be driving down the road and not have some sort of lustful thought about a woman on the side of the road, and because he cannot just take her. Then
laws always getting in my way.
Then listen to this. Then at night, he basically has a fantasy run with her in his mind where it's not forbidden for him to take her. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things that are wrong with all of those observations. The fact that there would be a story where it's normal for a man to see a woman and then be lustful over her.
It sounds like this has probably happened to him a couple times.
I mean, if you read,
I wish I could just take her.
if you read this book, I mean, there's some appalling things, but anyway, on the whole, what it is him taking this sacred poem, an ancient poem, and basically using his like higher mind or higher self to dissect it and his like understanding of it.
Yeah.
So there are values to it if you take out and take sexism and Nixonism and Soviet Unionisms out of it and just, actually take it for what it is. So this is what I thought it was interesting. He talks about it from the standpoint of enlightenment, but we have been talking about it from the standpoint of human body functioning, period. You have an enormous amount of energy that comes through into you, right? And then you use it up through your attention or your thoughts, right? The attention traveling episode is basically that. You come in and your monkey mind or your fear mind just keeps on running the chi in the most uncontrollable, free, willy-nilly way, right. And you run off your power, right? Like you're depleted at the end of each day, considering how much time, one, you spend running your thoughts, right? But then two, especially if they were in vibratory nature of fear, right? And so hence meditation basically allows you to center around triggers and to come into the center and start kind of seeing, oh, look, the monkey mind has run off and basically using up my chi or using up my energy or my pranic force or whatever you want to call it. And then he says that if you then accumulate thought, right, then the next time you go to use the thought or have an intent or give something attention, like how you make a wish into an intention, then it's a lot more potent and charged because you have held on all of the nonsense willy-nilly runoff, and you're actually having a purposeful movement into one particular point of intention.
Right. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. And this is what and then again, like he goes off saying, if you use that thought for good, then it is good magic, or what did he say? Did he say good magic?
You said white earlier.
Oh, sure, good. Yeah, white magic. And if you use that thought for bad, then it becomes black magic.
Yeah.
And so that's what he said. But then my extrapolation of it then went, well, wait, we basically have those intentions regardless of accumulation or non-accumulations of thoughts. Even in our non-accumulated, non-charged up way, we're always running our thoughts either into good magic or bad, or light magic or dark magic. Or the truth is, without using word magic, is manifestation or propagation or attention traveling for the good or attention traveling for the bad.
Yeah.
This is, again, splitting the idea into good and bad, but in truth is something that we actively want or something that we actively don't want, but still generate. And that's what it comes down to. It's not that we actively walk around going, oh, look, oh, I'm going to go and, wish bad upon that car and then hope it breaks. It's not that we are actively wishing bad and therefore doing black magic. We subconsciously vibrate bad thoughts out of fear because we like, oh, I sure do not want my car to break, or I sure do not want my garage door to break.
Or even jealousy or whatever.
Yeah. Or like, oh, I'm jealous about that person having all that good stuff, because therefore I'm in lack.
Yeah.
And then therefore you wish bad upon that person.
Yeah. Two things. One, this reminds me of like the evil eye that sometimes you get when you're out and like someone might see you might see someone, and then like all of a sudden you feel bad, you feel off, your stomach's upset or whatever.
But in the United States, that's not a thing.
It's not a thing. It is a thing
because it happens, but nobody knows about it.
But that happens to us frequently when we go out, especially if we go out unprotected.
Yeah.
And it took me, you had to explain it several times before I really got it. Cause I'm like, are they out there, zapping you with it? And it's not exact. I'll tell you a story about this later. It's not that. It is more of a subconscious, jealousy or something. It isn't necessarily a deliberate, oh, I want this person to suffer. It's more just like, I'm jealous of whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It could be as minor as like, oh, I like that jacket and it looks good on them and I'm jealous I don't have it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And it
it's ill intent.
It isn't necessarily even a material possession. It's like, oh, they seem to be happy and I'm not.
And I'm not. Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Two, I forget the word. But this reminds me of Daniel Schmachtenberger's when he brought up the term.
You can look it up.
There's a word for it.
Like ill.
No, the opposite of
Yeah, his point is that we don't even know that this word exists, and then basically just think about what that means. That's not knowing that this word exists. Just search for Daniel Schmachtenberger.
What was the opposite of? What was?
Oh, I don't know. Like, I thought it was wishing well, like to wish someone well. So it's the opposite of the evil eye. Like when you look at someone and unintentionally you send them negative energy, this is like walking around vibrating positive intention and positive vibes through like a clear channel of intent.
So yeah, compersion is when you feel good about other people feeling good.
Yeah.
Your happiness is actually influenced by other people's happiness. But not in a codependent
not in a codependent. Yeah. Right. You're happy when other people are happy.
As opposed to like some sort of sadism where you're happy when other people are not happy.
Yeah.
Opposite of sadism was what I was looking for.
Oh, opposite of sadism.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sadism almost seems like sinister.
Right. No,
but most people don't want to interpret
that's a strong word for it.
Yeah. But like most people actually practice sadism in getting happy over other people's unhappiness.
Yeah.
But they don't want to market as sadism because
Right.
that's like,
You know,
wow, I'm not a sadist.
I mean, there's a whole, what is it? Schadenfreude? When it's like, it feels good when the bad guy finally gets it at the end of the movie, right? They catch the bad guy, or he goes to jail, or he gets killed, or whatever. Or you see someone you don't like and they stub their toe, and you're like, yeah. It's like, yeah, that's low level sadism.
I mean, is there such thing as low level? It's just sadism.
I mean, you're not out there, ripping legs off of spiders necessarily. I don't know, maybe you are, but yeah. So that's like a level up in life if you can get to that conversion state.
Yeah. And yeah, but it is completely one, it is difficult for me to say like, oh, why can't we just be this way standard? I wasn't brought up this way.
Yeah, neither was I.
I was very much brought up of somebody else having something means we're less likely to have it, which could potentially resonate truth in communist Ukraine, but it does not resonate truth in America.
Yeah. And I was brought up there's a lot of jealousy. It isn't necessarily that we can't have it. It was that we don't have it.
But did you even want it? That's the thing.
These were things that I didn't really care about as a young,
material
5-10-year-old person. We have a car that, as far as I can tell, works fine. In fact, we had 2 cars. And it was like, okay, they have a newer car. That didn't matter to me at that age, but I could tell it mattered to my mother, at least. For the most part, I got all the material things I wanted. The only thing that I really, really wanted, I remember growing up and really, really wanting, was a Nintendo. And I got it eventually for Christmas. That's like the only thing I can remember really, really wanting and not having. And I mean, other people had like the Sega or the whatever.
Did you say other people? You mean like me?
No,
I did not get Sega until I moved to the United States.
I had friends who had a Sega. I guess I had friends who had a computer that would do stuff that mine didn't do, and so I was a little jealous about that. Yeah. So I mean, there was jealousy over other people's stuff. It was very prevalent in my family.
Yeah, no, it was in my family. It was prevalent as well. Like other people getting things mattered. More so to my mom than my dad. I think my dad was a little bit more zen and aware of like general. He like became Hindu and obviously studied all that stuff.
Yeah.
Although as a whole, Hinduism like teaches this like material detachment. But yet I find the society is so materially attached to where, I mean, it almost seems like the reason why they teach so much unattachment from materialism is because society is so attached to materialism.
Yeah.
The status of materialism. More, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, we have talked about that, but what I wanted to repivot into is day to day, this thought, right? That what Osho recalls as thought, and then what I say is attention giving or diving into blindness of thought, right? The unawareness of thought or unawareness of what you give your attention to actually drives, and this is what I want to say, by default, if it's coming out of our unprocessed pain body, black magic or ill intent or, something that if we actively were, presented with the choice, would you rather propagate this in the world or this in the world? We would choose the opposite of what we are actually propagating. And it's all done through our personal unawareness to what is that we do and how we feel when we think our thoughts. And so, hence, this is, again, I'm not assigning any particular blame, but the situation that we face day to day, whatever you want to believe the situation of Earth is and on this day in 2025, right, is direct reflection of our personal vibratory field that we consciously or subconsciously set up and send out there as our truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like responsibility wise, we don't take it. Like we do not add value to that responsibility.
Yeah. Right. I think we're just, for the most part, I think we're all just, we're blind to it. We don't think about it. We don't account for it. It's like the evil eye. It's like, people just don't even realize they're doing it. And yet it has literal, real effects in the world. Well, negative effects at that.
Like everywhere in the Middle Eastern culture, they have the evil eye protection symbol with the blue, and then like it looks like an eye, like the circular things. And in Ukraine, we knew what that was.
Yeah.
And we would do other things to protect from evil eye, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I don't think it is intentional, and I think we blindly, through choice into unawareness of why we vibrate what we vibrate. With us, whenever we even go out here, sometimes like when we come back and we didn't protect ourselves or didn't like do due diligence ahead of the time in order to not feel bad through either protection oil or like building the light shield around yourself, then you come back and you're drained.
Yeah.
Absolutely drained.
Yeah.
But it is not because other people wish you well or unwell. It is because the vibratory field of this negative loop just automatically drains you out.
Right. They, probably subconsciously, maybe sometimes deliberately and maliciously, but usually subconsciously, you can imagine their field and you're interacting with it just by, if you're next to them for sure, if they can receive you or perceive you or even think about you, maybe at a distance. I think that happens too.
Well, like, in Ukraine, all the people who do like all the babki who do like black magic, it's always all at a distance.
Yeah. But like, we'll get like, we'll get flesh or something when, someone's talking about us or thinking about us. And it's because, we all share this field that permeates the universe.
Yeah. No, this is kind of like a side story about Ukrainian, I don't know. Obviously not all Ukrainians are this, but my mom used to know somebody. I think you'll figure out who I'm talking about. And they very much were involved in sucking other people's energy. And so some people, certain sects of Ukrainians kind of get into these as normal practices, right? And so this particular family just did this, right? Like this is just what they did. And people, I'm making a very judgmental racist statement here, but people in the Western Ukraine were very much into this a lot more than people in Eastern Ukraine. So anytime my mom would make a statement about this, it was always about the Western Ukrainians. But two of the families out of Western Ukraine that we knew were both into this. In the United States. But my mom would make these statements back when we were still in Ukraine. And we had a house, and the way our gate worked is we had to have the gate to the backyard open in order to have LG&E, like basically like a gas reader, an electric meter reader, to come into the back and access the gas line. And so even though it was a fenced in backyard, this gate, we kind of had to have it open all the time. And my mom gets a phone call. And she's friends with these people, like we're good friends. And she gets a phone call from them and she has to come over and like do something. And my mom years later, like realizes, oh, they're literally, so if you do dark magic, and this is kind of like a weird side story, but sooner or later, your personal energetic force is gone, and you need to start tapping into other people and start draining them. Like you cannot live off because you've been living off of stolen energy.
Maybe you're gonna get there, but like whenever you see in the in cartoons and in movies, witches are perceived like all hunched over with the hump. That's that's the physical manifestation of living that life.
Yeah. And I knew quite a few people who do dark magic in Ukraine who developed humps.
Yeah.
Like it is not a
coincidence.
Yeah, coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because your personal life force just basically is gone and you're living that choice into dark energy, right? Knowing
I think that was very deliberate too.
What?
I know who you're talking about. And that was not just like subconscious thing. That was like,
oh, no.
I'm going to deliberately go and do this stuff.
No. Yeah. This side story is, this is a deliberate action, right? This is deliberate action. So these people, their goal is to basically to use people who still have their life force active and to steal their pranic force or their pranic fortune or whatever you want to call it in order to feed themselves into more fortune, right? Like they use your fortune to feed their fortune, which is really strange. But I just want to say there are some people who either believe that they do this or if they do this because they believe that they do this. And whether or not you believe it or not, some of your misfortunes could actually not be misfortunes and could be the fact that somebody's actively like draining you. And that in Ukraine, that happened all the time.
Yeah. And they would do it through, do you want to talk about the methods?
Well, no. And so in this case, like mom was home, but was pretending not to be home. Right. And because she knew that the urgency of her needing to come and see mom had to do something with her needing energy. Right. And so mom was like, oh, no, we're not home. And she's home. And so she comes in. She doesn't even go knocking at the door. She goes in and she knows that the back gate is open. And she goes and sits at the time we had a gazebo, right? And she sits on the back porch in the gazebo, obviously for like, mom said like over an hour, she's sitting there. And then they usually, in Ukraine, what they do is they usually deposit charged, ill-wished metal things that they charge with ill wishes, and they basically sit there as physical drains,
like a nail,
metal,
or a spoon, or a needle,
needles, or a safety pins. That is the most common one. So
nice and small, great because they're easy to hide.
Small things, yeah, so they're easy to hide. Safety pins, needles, and then small nails and things like that. So I don't know why metal. I'm not advanced enough to figure that out, and then my mom sometimes would just find these things around the house, right? And so they're just there as these. So intent was said by this person who was doing dark magic in order to drain my parents or whatever it is that she thought that she was going to drain them off. And then they clutched onto my family as the drain. Just because my parents were so open. And that's usually what they do is they find people who are open and don't control their energy, are not good at controlling their energy and freely like give out love and give out help. And she was just like and they did a lot of other crazy things. They wanted to get into our house when we bought the house because they kept on saying to my mom like, oh, we haven't seen Tanya's house yet. And I know they bought a new house. Where is it at? Can we go see it?
The last house.
The last house. Okay. Yeah. And yeah. And
boy.
Yeah. And mom knew exactly what they were trying to do, right? So they're just trying to drain any kind of energy that still exists.
Yeah. No, I remember them. They always seemed off a little bit.
Yeah. And it took my parents for a long time to recognize what was happening and what they were doing.
Yeah.
Right. But then like you can just see like your good luck, like or general progression of like normal dwindle down into more and more bad events.
Yeah.
And if there's this huge like trajectory down, just maybe like recognize, wait, maybe somebody's doing something.
Right.
Yeah. But at the same time, you were telling me like, oh, well, what if I don't believe it? Then how can I be affected by it? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the answer to that is. Right. I grew up believing it and it was always embedded in me as something that is truthful.
Yeah.
And the culture believed it, and very much, there was people who would practice it. And so I don't know, like, could you grow up in a culture where you don't believe this and then therefore you're not affected even if somebody's trying to do this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like if you got enough people together and there was some target, some famous person, political person that, a whole bunch of people just don't like, you could,
yeah,
do something. I don't know. Because I certainly didn't believe that. At the same time, it's like there's believing in it and there's like falling victim to it.
Yeah, no, I
And
don't
those are
think.
like, right now, I believe it, but I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, well, no, and now you kind of know that the goal is to keep sovereignty, right?
Right.
And then we kind of talked about it over the weekend. Keep sovereign space. Keep your own sovereign space.
Right. So it's like, could people be out there could there be people out there doing this to me intentionally or subconsciously? Sure. Is that something that I give a lot of thought to at all? No.
Yeah.
Do I still try to remember to, if I'm going to go to a place where there are a handful of people who I'm like, every time I have an interaction with them, I don't feel great afterward. Should I, be extra careful about my sovereignty before that? Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not afraid of the street, like crossing the street, but I'm careful about crossing the street. I'm not afraid of this, but I'm a little careful.
Yeah. No, the goal is not to
Cautious, I
be
guess.
afraid.
Right.
But I think some people know how to use their energy, and then the energy that are freely available from other people better than you even know yourself how to contain and sustain and basically sovereign space your own space, right? In the attention traveling episode, right? That's what that is. You're open, and you freely giving your thought out to either positive concept or negative concept, or just you're freely open and you're not protected from other people's ill wishes or ill doings.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it also comes back into your personal pranic charge. Like, I think if your pranic force is large and expanded and you're holding your sovereign space, right, protected sovereign space through intention, I don't think anybody can come in and start yanking at it or even have you divert your attention and start sucking your attention out.
Right.
But most of us, I guess maybe this is what the lesson here is, are not in that sovereign protection of our space.
Exactly.
Yeah. Much more so, though, not only are we not in protection of sovereign space, and then therefore others can divert our attention and use up our sovereignty. What we're actually doing as well is we're allowing that process to take place, because if we are functioning in fear, right, and somebody else is over there providing us with a solution to the next best thing in order to mediate whatever fear you're feeling,
right,
then you're quite literally surrendering your sovereignty to that concept.
Yeah, that's something that I think most people are not that aware of. Is you could just look at any. It's so easy to see in like politics. Any politician throughout history is like, look at all these things that are out there. It's so scary. We all need to be afraid. But I've got all these solutions that are gonna fix it. That's just the standard politics, right? I mean, that's that. Godwin saw Hitler's like, look at all these things that are bad. Exhibit A, the Jews. And here's some solutions to that. Problem solved. I have the solution to all these problems with the country. Yeah, but it all feeds on fear.
Yeah.
All of it. And if you can, and it's, depending on who it is and what they're saying, there are things that seem scary. Sure, I get it. There for, many years, the terrorists, oh my gosh, the terrorists, they're all going to get us. And if you were to do any sort of logical thinking, you would see that, I don't know what it is, 10 times, 100 times more people, 1,000 times more people die every year from car accidents and heart disease than from terrorists, at least here in the United States. But the terrorists sure get all the attention and all the funding to fight them as well. But it's all because terrorists are scary and car accidents and heart disease is very mundane. Statistically, you're going to, you and everybody are going to die from heart attacks and car accidents well before, some terrorist thing here in the United States, at least. But that's not flashy and scary and hasn't been sold as being flashy and scary either.
Well, in that case, right, the agenda is to funnel federal funding, and this is not a propaganda, it's just a fact, to military.
Yes.
And to do that, people have to be willing to do that. And in order for them to be willing to do that, they have to be afraid in order to make sure the military is funded.
Yes, that's exactly, that is exactly it.
So it's not, none of it is true other than the attention traveling. In order for military to continue to have more funding, the public has to support the idea that we have to have military 10 times the size of any other country in the world.
Yeah.
Because we're so afraid, right?
Yeah.
But that's just, again, us giving up our sovereignty because we choose to be afraid. And the idea that we have the strongest military in the world makes us sleep better at night, as opposed to just addressing, wait, what is that actually I'm afraid of? I'm actually afraid of Nazi Germany restarting itself up, or I don't know, the Mongols deciding, to resurrect Genghis Khan's next heir and then come over here and take over United. Yeah. We're not actually afraid logically of any of it,
right?
But we never want to sit there and actually think. It's not actually logical. It is all fear-based from the standpoint of a child.
Right.
And we want to keep it so nebulous so we don't have to define it, so we can just surrender our sovereignty like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about it. I can just give my federal money to the government and they will set up the military 10 times the size, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yes.
Yes. And that's what attention traveling is. And this is what surrendering your sovereignty. And this is actually what propagating black magic looks like. Mm-hmm. This is, right, nobody would think that this is black magic, but this is black magic.
Right. And we all become willing participants in it because it's like, oh, this is scary. I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to think about it. And I certainly don't want any responsibility for trying to fix it. But here's someone elected or up for election or whatever that has a solution.
Well, no, and the election doesn't even matter. The military complex continues to function without the electors.
Yeah, but like, okay, that's fine. I pay my taxes, and somebody else takes care of the problem, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
and so there's no responsibility for me. There's no accountability. If it goes great, that's great. I pay my taxes. Great, good job. If it goes wrong, well, what else could I have done? There's no responsibility. There's no accountability. It's somebody else's problem to deal with.
Yeah, but I want to point out through the extension of this Osho interpretation is when he calls it black magic, we kind of get appalled by it and go, well, no, that's not black magic. I'm not actively, doing harm, energetic harm.
Right.
But I want to point out that, yes, this is how energetic harm looks like. Yeah. We're not processing the fact that we're afraid. We're not processing the fact that there's a pained body that has us in scarcity or some kind of fear. In this case, we're just giving an example of military attack by the Mongols, right? But anything, right? Any kind of afraid.
Genghis Khan does have a lot of heirs.
Well, no, I just picked a stupid example that is basically the least likely to happen.
But there are like literally millions of descendants of Genghis Khan.
Yeah, no, I know. I know, but like the chances of that happening is zilch, right? But I want to say is that is like the stupid example of it. But the truth is, most of the people I would want to say in the United States are walking around somehow afraid of some nebulous threat that is out there that they have not even recognized that they're actually afraid of. But they're trying to not think about it and think that this is being soothed with billions of taxpayer dollars going to military complex.
I don't know. Maybe this is a side note. There's a 3-episode BBC special called Archangel with Daniel Craig. And the plot is that, spoiler alert, Joseph Stalin has a secret son who's been stashed away in the woods for years and years and years. And now that the time is right, and the people, the powers that be, who don't like the current, Russian administration, they're going to bring him into the light, and because despite Joseph Stalin being a grade A asshole, apparently he was still well loved by the people. Well after his death. And so, here comes Joseph too, and everybody just, at least enough people are like, yeah, this is great. And he looks like he's just going to be exactly the same as his dad. Just, will kill anybody who's in the way. But he's a solution to the problems, and a lot of people are, yay, he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the reason, and I don't know if people's opinion on Stalin, because I wasn't around when Stalin was around, but if I had to guess, anytime somebody wins a war, or at least doesn't have the country be completely lost to the Nazis,
yeah,
the resonance of the last thing that you did, which was like, oh, well, you were a good military leader and brutal enough to where your military tactics had us not lose Soviet Union to the Nazis.
Yeah.
Which is, that brutality extended prior to the war.
Yeah.
And I'm sure post the war, I don't actually know when he died, but he was there to carry the country through the war.
Right. No, I mean,
so as far as
I get it.
Stalin,
military hero, he saved the country from the Nazis. That's, on the big pros and cons list, that's a big pro. I get it.
Well, I think because on the net, the amount of suffering that was brought by to the average individual by the Nazis was bigger than the amount of suffering that was brought out by the average individual by Stalin or his administration.
And I think the suffering that was brought by Stalin was, I think, targeted at specific areas and ethnic groups, and maybe those aren't the popular ones anyway.
Yeah.
So
who
cares about that group type of a thing?
No, I know my so whatever my grandfather. So wait, this would be my grandmother's dad. He was targeted by Stalin, and I say Stalin, not like Stalin himself, but like whatever propaganda administration that got fed through all the way down into our city, and it was like arrested and whatever was put away because he was saying things.
Like disappeared, or did he get out?
I want to say that like they ended up marking him as like mentally unwell and basically locked him up. But is because he would get drunk and he would just run his mouth,
say things that you're not allowed to say.
Yes, it would say things against the political party, not thinking about it. And so yeah, I don't know if they did not kill him. Maybe they killed him in prison when he was in prison. But they just like locked him up, marked him as unwell. But the way it worked through the gossip channel of the society, right? Like if you reported someone back then you got credit with the gov in order to be on the good graces.
Now, sort of like reporting people to ICE right now,
I guess. Yeah, except there was no monetary gain, right? It was just like graces, right? Like, oh, well, that guy's running his mouth about the political party and whatnot. So yeah, but yeah, alcoholism, as far as my family history goes on my mom's side was, very prominent. Yeah, and so I think my grandma almost grew up like without him because he was just so unhinged and alcoholic. Like
it was her
dad,
her father,
her dad. Yeah.
So your great grandfather.
Yeah, which I never got to meet, but I did get to meet his wife.
Okay,
so she was still alive, and so she was raising my grandmother's brother, who was like maybe 3 or 5 years older than her, and then my grandma. During World War II, so he was even gone before World War II even started. Wherever his unhingedness took him, and I think
Siberia.
No, I want to say that like the prison hospital that they took him was like in Kharkiv, and Kharkiv would be like an hour and a half drive away, maybe 2, or maybe a little bit more, maybe 2 or 3, I don't know. And then I think he just kind of died there. I don't know what, but I mean, being in military or in mental health prison under Stalin, so like I don't even want to think about any of that.
It reminds me of, I don't know why it reminds me of this. I don't know if it's anything like this. We went to, we were in Cancun once, and we did a day trip out to Chichen Itza. And on this, it was like it was a tour bus, I think, right? right?
Yeah, the tour bus.
And at some point we stop, and there's a Mexican prison that is it is being expanded, and so it is a functioning prison, and there's razor wire and everything, and then it's being expanded, and they're building more cinder blocks and more rebar and more everything, and I'm like, oh, that looks really rough. Like, I imagine American prisons aren't great, but like this prison, which is in the middle of nowhere.
The goal is to have it in the
middle.
The goal
is, but it's just like, it's like an hour away from wherever we started and another couple hours away from where we're going. It's just in the middle of the jungle. Ooh.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Right.
Rough.
They just like this, all of these stories that I heard. Obviously, you don't hear the good stories. Like, oh, we went out and we have a great picnic and we swam by the river or whatever. Like, those stories don't get passed on.
There's I don't know the name of it. There's this psychological phenomenon where the negative stuff, it is, I want to say, they think it's somewhere between 10 and 100 times more powerful as far as emotions and therefore memory than the positive stuff. And this presents it the same way. You go and you read your YouTube comments and you'll read 99, oh, this is great, I love it, keep going. And then you read one, you're an idiot. And that one will just go, oh my God. And that's all you can think about. You don't think about the 99 positive ones. You think about the one jerk who bothered to comment something negative.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think what it comes down to is as long as we function out of that blindness of our pain body or in trauma, of no awareness of why it is triggering.
Yeah.
Then basically we are at this point of not having sovereign space.
Yeah.
And having either, Ukrainian babki, throw needles into your house, or basically under the disguise of the good, thinking that, funding military complex to the nth degree is the right thing to do in order to feel safe about this nebulous threat of invasion. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's as sinister as it could be, and it's as not sinister but disguised as good.
I think,
or the opposite of what I think.
If you want to get it even more sinister, I don't even think we're afraid of being invaded. I think the idea of somebody invading the United States is just so far fetched that it isn't. It's like, what? Now it's like our job is our job. The job of the United States is to impose its will across the rest of the world. And so we need the biggest military in order to do that. So it's been I don't think anybody is actually afraid of anybody invading the United States, military-wise, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, but we got to make sure that the Middle East is going the way we want it. Or, they got to keep China in check. Or we got to, whatever it is.
If somebody's fear is not invasion of the United States, it's like infiltration.
Or maintaining the status quo of democracy or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well,
it feels like it's inflated beyond just protecting most out of 198 countries, I think 100 of them are, if we can protect our borders, we're doing good. And then there's the United States, China, Russia, India, maybe some more. I'm not going to keep listing so I don't get in trouble. Who have larger goals beyond, I just want to just leave me alone and we'll all be cool. It's like, now we got to go. And I am not even saying that this is good, bad, right, wrong. I'm saying that these superpowers want to, exert influence out beyond their borders.
Yeah. Well, but that's a political move, right? The move is to, I don't want to talk about war and politics, but, the goal is just one step removed. Instead of allowing the threat to continue to build, you eliminate the threat before it even starts.
Sure.
And so you just enter into a different country where you think the threat is building up. You turn through your CIA operatives operation around. You kill the right people at the right time. You change the regime. And then all of a sudden the threat is no longer there because the regime that you installed is controlled by you.
Yeah.
But that's still control
out
of fear. but not fear of invasion, but fear of somebody building up a power that could potentially at some point be threatening to you or threatening to some oil that you want to harvest later.
How could that possibly go wrong?
No, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because in the long run, the action, right? The next action is out of fear.
It's all from the same thing.
Yeah. So when we are in fear as individual beings, like this is, I talk about this as like a countrywide effort or a nationwide effort into military complexes, right? Or even like global effort of like all countries trying to protect their sovereign borders. And you would say, well, how is that wrong? How, like how can it be wrong for you to protect your borders? Because I'm Ukrainian and look what happened to Ukraine and continues to happen to Ukraine. Do you know what I mean? There's just that. Like, here's a perfect example of the country who does not have a military complex large enough to sustain invasion from, Russia, who has a larger military complex, right? But what I'm saying is what we're not addressing, which is, going to be rude to say, me being Ukrainian, but the country was vibrating in fear that never left its psyche post-World War II.
Probably both countries.
But for sure, Ukraine. And I remember growing up and being raised by my grandmother, and I remember how scared we were of invasion by the Nazis. And I still have, yesterday we just talked about, I have these huge number of trigger words in German that I never heard the Nazis say, but because my grandma heard it, she said it to me with the amount of energy that she heard a Nazi soldier say it who was staying at her home during World War II. And then that energy, just her being so good at saying that damn German word, and then being able to project the energy that they projected onto her, she projected it onto me through, obviously the trauma that I have. And, yesterday I was jokingly saying, I would not be able to hang around any German-speaking individual, especially a man, and especially a man who can raise this voice to a certain frequency band, because it would just trigger me into like either completely shutting down and crawling to a fetal position and crying, or obviously self-defense mode where I would just run the fuck away.
Yeah.
And so that literally eliminates me being able to socialize with like millions of people. And that's like crazy, but that's what energetic propagation of trauma does without any awareness of what it means to be afraid of something and just passing that fear on to your grandchild in this case.
Yeah.
Through an innocent sharing of a story that was part of her life.
Yeah.
Right. Her goal was not to have me be afraid. Her goal was to like simply share this terrible experience that she had under a Nazi occupation in Ukraine during World War II. But to me, like being that young and hearing that instilled so much fear that like, oh yeah, no, there are certain words that I cannot hear. And then like just nonchalantly like, oh, okay, yeah, that was just another word. I'm quite literally still working on that. Right. But that is because I allow that fear to override my sovereignty, right? And as a trigger, just a simple word being said, right? One word can trigger me into the fear-based mindset that I have yet to draw awareness to. So what I'm saying is, regardless of my grandma going through this experience, when she shared it with me, it was simply a story out of history that was her truth. But because as a child, I never processed or never could actually realize, like, wait, this is just a story. It's not my truth. Through that awareness, I never gave enough awareness to have sovereignty over not being affected by, German language. And especially certain phrases in German language that Nazis used to scream at Ukrainians. And it doesn't help the fact that my dad's side of the family, who was Jewish, who basically had to flee the Nazis over there, into like Siberia region, have their own set of stories, which I did not hear as a young child, thank God, but I heard as a teenager after I met I spent more time with my Jewish grandmother. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's from both sides. Both sides of my family have these atrocious Nazi stories that, yeah, obviously I still have a hard time not having it affect me. But if I do not have sovereignty and I do not have awareness and I function out of that mindset with the second I hear a Nazi word, I say Nazi word, a German word, I think of Nazis, and I think, and the fear comes on, right?
Right.
And then I basically go and change my vibratory state, because it automatically changes my vibratory state from like nonchalant vacation in Costa Rica to like, oh shit, are we being invaded in Costa Rica?
Right. When it's two 10-year-old boys in the pool.
Yes, right. But
playing.
Yeah, but my vibratory state, right? If there's zero awareness, what is actually happening is I go from this relaxed, nonchalant state of vacation in Costa Rica to go into a fear state of trauma, of unsafety, in this case, of Nazis, right? And then the prejudice could come out of like, oh, all Germans are potential Nazis, which is the standard Ukrainian thought, right? Or just like, oh, people who speak that language are unsafe, which was my thought, right? Like, oh, you speak in that language, this is unsafe. Or just the idea of like, oh, look, I am once again being triggered into my childlike state of unsafety. And in this case, is being triggered by a German-speaking child versus like, oh, I'm just being triggered into unsafety. And that unsafety exists regardless of German or regardless of Nazis or regardless of, whatever it is. It's a child in fear.
Yeah.
And deep down, I'm just child in fear, shivering. And if I'm not aware of that, I can continue. Like I could have rewritten that whole vacation or that whole day and continue to propagate fear, right? My entire electromagnetic field around me, my pranic force could have hung on to that fear and then start dragging other fears into it.
Yeah.
And then basically would be triggered into being triggered by all kinds of things.
I believe this is where racism comes from and how it gets propagated.
Yeah.
And any sort of bigotry, sexism, any of those things are all some unique story like this. It's like, left unchecked, you wouldn't like the Germans, all your kids wouldn't like the Germans, and here's this whole clan of descendants who are all anti-German because at one point there was someone speaking German who did something bad.
Yeah, to a family member. And that got propagated as a family trauma, generational trauma.
And that's not to excuse that behavior, but that's what, this one example, Now here's a whole bunch of people you could see people getting militant against the Germans because, oh my gosh, 3 generations ago, German did this,
Yeah, but what I say is that part
without any awareness, that's where it could lead.
Yeah, but that's what I say. That is, I want to give an example of what me being aware of the trigger looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wasn't aware, what it actually does.
Mm-hmm.
It has my sovereign energy be completely shut off and then given to a fear, this nebulous fear of unprocessed Nazi Germany in Costa Rica.
Right. And that's almost black magic against yourself. Because these kids aren't doing anything. They're just out talking in their native language, playing in the pool.
Yeah. Well, it's black magic. No, it's actually not even against myself. That's the thing. Is I want to say the responsibility there is we are always vibrating a message. Like as a human form, you're always vibrating your vibe out. Like you're vibing.
Yeah.
And if I'm vibing fear, then everyone around me within, 200 feet radius is affected by my negative vibes.
I could tell because I heard them say it. And it's just 2 kids playing in a pool. But you just like, it was just like you tensed up. I think I was holding you or touching you at that point. You just tensed up, and I'm like, oh wow, that had a very pronounced effect.
Yeah,
that word in that accent, and these are kids.
Yeah, but they're saying the trigger word that I heard as a child.
Yeah, but imagine
that had energy.
Imagine some adult with a deep voice saying it. Now it's even worse, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. No, right.
God.
But then I could have been lost to that trigger, right? And then everyone at that resort would have been actually viscerally affected by instead of me having this relaxed, chill vibe of going, oh my gosh, look at these awesome monkeys in Costa Rica, to like, oh shit, the Nazis are invading. Do you know what I mean? And like, and everybody around me wouldn't have understand of why all of a sudden there's this trickle of
things feel off.
Yeah, right. But if they did not have their sovereignty in place, my bad vibes or idiotic thoughts, right, non-processed thoughts, would have affected their vacation. And then, long story short, right, like if enough people get changed by me, and then they vibrate a lower vibe of fear, then they change others. And this whole area
domino effect.
Yeah, domino effect. And this whole area basically overrides itself from a nice Costa Rican vacation to, oh my gosh, this entire resort is now depressed and in fear and sitting in their rooms, afraid of something.
Yeah. And not only that, I think it would go out to the flora and fauna of the region too. It wouldn't just be to humans,
Yeah.
I think, the higher level creatures like the monkeys would can sense it.
Yeah.
I think it affects everything, but I think they would sense it easier than maybe the lizards or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is what I want to say is, like, right, going back to the Osho, if you have sovereign thought, meaning you recognize your thought and you recognize the responsibility behind your thought, and then you calm your mind, you calm your chatting monkeys, and you basically reserve the thought to a present moment, like kind of like piggybacking of Eckhart Tolle's teachings about the present moment, right? Then the present moment holds responsibility of your action. And if the action is not taken, right, and you're just simply vibing with the state of beingness, you accumulate this huge amount of energy, right? And then if you have a desire to direct the thoughts towards love and light or ascension of human species into higher vibratory state, right? Or healing of earth or healing of the trees or healing of the animals or healing of the water, then that thought becomes supercharged. And you basically, I think the reason why Osho used the word magic is because it transcends any one fecal thought. Oh, there's a word that I'm missing. But, any one like nonchalant thought, and you supercharge it into this large intent because you recognize the personal power that you have behind you. And then you collectively or individually send the thought to this larger healing aspect of love into the world, right? And it doesn't even have to be healing aspect of the world to like, oh, this is bad, let's go ahead and heal it. No, what if I just simply give it energy of healing, and the universe can take its personal space and interpret that healing however it needs?
Yeah.
You're not trying to control an outcome. You're simply taking your power, your personal sovereign power, and you're holding a huge charge. And then because you've been holding it in the sovereign space, then the second you direct it towards intent of healing, you actually exercise it for good. I mean, and that's what responsibility actually is not being fickle, yeah, not being fickle with your mind, right? And just like having zero awareness, running your pranic force off. Not then, if you are aware of your mind, recognizing the power that you have behind it and not using towards bad, right? Towards actually active bad, or recognizing the power behind it from this conversation and realizing, wait, well, if me vibrating in fear actually unintentionally creates and propagates bad outcomes that I myself don't want. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I wasn't aware of me reacting to that word, I would have never said, do I want to ruin 10 people's vacation around me in this pool? And I would have said, of course not. I don't want to ruin my family's or this family's, right? Or anyone around that pool.
I think there's a component of like compassion to yourself in this, because it's like, we all have triggers, and it's not, yay, it would be amazing if we could just not have triggers, but that's not reality.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have them.
I mean, even
we
Osho has triggers.
apparently.
But
Apparently, it's
lustful woman
women
on the
side of the road. But we have them. We will always have them. But realizing we have them, and these are, in a Jungian sense, these are parts of our shadow that we don't really like about ourselves, and we wish they weren't there. But embracing them and becoming friends with them, and through that we will gain an understanding of them, and we won't be afraid of them. We're all afraid of our triggers. Like, we're afraid of whatever it is that triggers us. We're afraid of being triggered by it. We're afraid of all aspects of this, right?
I think we are afraid of even recognizing that this is a trigger.
Well, yes, it's like to take yours. You're afraid of the German language. People who speak German, you're afraid of hearing it. You're afraid of being triggered by it. You're afraid of it going out and affecting other people. To some degree, all of these things are all concerns. But knowing that and accepting that, and even embracing that and loving that, is the path to not having that have control over us. And through that is the path to I don't want to say getting rid of your triggers, because it isn't that. It's being okay with them.
Or just becoming aware when they happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah, welcoming them, being okay when they happen, seeing, oh, look, this once again triggered me into whatever German language word I just heard.
Not judging it.
Yeah, and just saying, look, this is kind of interesting. And over the last several months, what I found really interesting is this is what will happen as we start to de-densify and ascend our energy up, a higher vibratory field, and draw more awareness to like our everyday life. What I have recognized is it is interesting to see how much emotional depth I used to feel in those reactions, right? And that's what they were there for, is I came here to feel the depth of fear that I needed, to feel in my reaction to, this one particular word in German, right? And it was visceral. Like, it was...
Sure, it's real.
Like, it's funny in a way. I'm like, wait, right? To say that, you're like, wait, there's one word that most Germans used in a non-invading of the Ukraine type of a context.
Sure, it's a very normal word.
Yeah. And yet, like, you have this reaction to it. I mean, kids in the pool are using it. So obviously it's not a German invading word or Nazi invading word. It's just a word, right? But the fact that I can take something so simple and have such a visceral reaction within my system. And the truth is, I realize that is how in the past I felt human. Like, that is what I realize now. Like, the being in the depth of that pain body and being so blind to it triggered me into blindness and made the human experience so visceral, so real. And now I hear the word, and I recognize that I would have never been able to have a German friend or marry a German or date a German or anything like that. A man, German man. Maybe I would have been able to have a relationship with a German woman, but now I can look it back and I go, that's crazy. It's crazy that this one word so viscerally, basically trickled my whole life into this set of experiences where German language is off the table.
Yeah. I mean, you use the word interesting like 5 times right there. And I think that's the key. Like, to me, I get interested in exploring it, in oh, look at that. Look what's happening to me. That's really interesting. And I don't know if this works for other people, but if being interested in it, genuinely interested in exploring what these triggers do to you, is incredibly helpful to me, because it gets me excited about exploring it. If I'm interested about something, I am excited about something. And it is difficult for me to be excited about something that I'm not interested in. So genuinely being interested in it has really helped.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting point for me is just looking back of why
Mm-hmm.
it was there and how it made me feel and how it had enhanced my human experience in the past. And it's like, oh wow, it quite literally made this human experience so much more real. Just feeling the breath of like, obviously when I was feeling it and it was painful, there was no awareness behind it. So the pain was very visceral because it was so real, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was never in Nazi Germany, sure did feel like it. But having that word triggered that reaction that then triggered that much pain and that much suffering and that much fear made my humanness a lot more human.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, that is what it's there for. Like this onslaught of fear-based emotions is super potent to keep us really having experienced Earth before we die.
Yeah.
Or I say die, before we move on into our actual form. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, interested, but like in retrospect, what you can do, and this is like maybe a continuation to the next podcast, is like you can actually use that awareness to deepen your experience even more.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I mean, yeah.
the understanding of that pain actually deepens my human experience even more because I can like dissect Mandelbrot effect, dissect even further the depth of that visceral feeling.
I mean, that's part of what when I say interesting and I get interested in it, that's what I want to do is I want to go, okay, look at this. This is how I feel, really feel that. And what else makes me feel that? And why do I feel that? Trace this back. How far back can I go? What is it? Is there something in childhood that made me feel that? What else throughout my life has made me feel that? All these things that just, really you viscerally feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an endless playground to explore. And yeah, it all feels kind of shitty. That's true. But at the same time, I'm trying to live like with this motto of, even the shitty things, that's part of life to feel. So it's there, whether I, embrace the feeling or not, you may as well embrace the feeling.
Yeah.
Right?
But shitty is actually just scary.
Shitty is just scary. This is true.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what it is it's scary. We're afraid. We're actually fearful. And that's the emotion that we try to run away from.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to going, oh no, that is kind of the key. That the fear and the being afraid and being scared, right? Are synonyms for one another. Actually, what drives us to feel the most unsafe.
Yeah.
Right. And in that unsafety, you experience a humongous depth of a human experience.
Yeah.
Nebulous. In fact, the more nebulous it is, the better it feels.
Yeah. The scarier it feels, but yeah.
Yeah, the scarier it feels, but more real it feels.
Yeah.
Like to me, I say better, the biggest depth of human experience is at the core of the most amount of fear. And that depth is different per person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody needs to go into a war field in order to have their visceral set of experiences, right? And to me, I just need to hear one German word spoken in the swimming pool by kids. Do you know what I mean? But the depth of fear, right, that triggers and like how visceral you feel like you belong to humanity. You belong with this tribe because you're on Earth and you in this density, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you really feel that density. And to me, it is beautiful because then in the long run, that is why we came here. We came here to experience the depth of the density. And that's how we do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the second you understand it, you can basically work your way out of it and feel the beauty in that expression. And then, that is what awareness is. It's just feeling the beauty in the triggers that you already have and will always have, but you experience them through the beauty and the dissection of made up reality that you're facing. Yeah. Yeah. So Osho,
Osho.
who knows where Osho is and how Osho feels, but there's some depth into his some of his words. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.